Well, hello everyone. It is John C. Morley here, serial entrepreneur, and welcome to Inspirations for Your Life. It's Friday, guys. It's May 22nd, 2026. If you're watching us live, if this is the very first time you're joining me, I want to take the opportunity to say thank you. And of course, I want to say the words welcome. If you've been here one time, two times, five, 100, or even more, I like to say thank you, but I also like to say the words welcome back. Always great to have people that appreciate the quality and content of the shows that I produce here. All right, guys, if you're thirsty or if you're hungry, I got myself a delicious decaf tea that's really good. I also got some RO water over here, too. So if you feel thirsty, hungry, or what have you, go grab something, get yourself comfy, and come on back, and we will start the show. All right, guys, if you have not checked out believemeachieve.com, you can do that right after the show, and you can do it 24 hours a day. So, yes. All right, guys, let's kick this show off. Are you ready? I know I am. All right. So, welcome everyone to Inspirations for Your Life. If I didn't say welcome to you, welcome. Um, it is so great to have you here. I'm John C. Morley, a serial entrepreneur, engineer, marketing specialist, video producer, podcast host, coach, keynote speaker, graduate student, passionate, lifelong learner, and now very grateful to be a published author. And it's my privilege and pleasure to welcome all of you here with me today. And we're talking about today's final episode for the conclusion is how focus shapes daily performance. Yes. And so that, ladies and gentlemen, if you didn't know, that is our main, basically that is our main topic, if you will, for for the week of rounding out. But our granular topic is something important, and that is full focus integration state. Do you know what that is? Very, very key and very, very important to know what that is. Okay. So, this episode of Inspirations for Your Life explores the final stage of attention development, where focus is no longer something you actively manage, but something that becomes fully integrated into how you operate. At this level, folks, execution, decision making, and workflow begin to function as one unified unit system rather than separate mental tasks. The result is more of a stable ecosystem, natural and consistent form of performance that no longer depends on constant correction or even effort spikes, which we've all heard about before. So, yeah, that's what's going on. And I think it's important to understand that. So today, we're closing the loop, guys, on a full week of focus exploration. Yeah. We're not talking about improving attention anymore. Nope. We're talking about integrating it because there comes a point in time where focus stops being something you apply and becomes something you are operating inside of. I think that's a very important thing to know. This, ladies and gentlemen, is where performance stabilizes at its highest natural level. So, are you ready, guys? Let's go ahead and break this all down and get right into the meat of the show. All right. All right, guys. So, number one is focus becomes embedded into natural behavior patterns. It no longer requires conscious activation like many of you thought about in the past or waiting for it to do something in the past. It just kind of takes over. So, I think that's a very important thing to actually understand. It no longer requires conscious activation. Number two, guys, attention stabilizes as a default operating condition. And you no longer need to reset it repeatedly. I think that's an important thing because when you have to repeat something and reset it, you're probably going to eventually forget. And then you're going to wonder, like, why it's not working the way you want because, well, you didn't reset it. Number three, execution becomes rhythm based rather than an effort based system. Work begins to flow in steady cycles. Decision making shortens due to reduced internal conflict. Less hesitation leads to faster clarity. Workflow becomes self organizing through repetition. Structure emerges without forcing control. And I think that's another big one, guys. Is so many people I know, they force control. And then they wonder why it's not going where they want it to be. I think that's a very important thing to actually understand is that it's not going where they want it to be. Number six, guys. Cognitive friction decreases during transitions. Moving between tasks becomes smoother and easier. Number 7, output becomes more consistent across different conditions. Performance no longer fluctuates heavily. It just sort of like is there. Goes up a little, goes down, but its fluctuations are very minor. Number 8, guys, mental processing becomes less reactive and more structured. Thought patterns stabilize over time. And I think we've said this before. When we have consistency and when we have structure, we will go far. All right. But sometimes people get stuck in that loop. They're like, oh my gosh, I don't know what I'm going to do. And I think that's a very important thing to understand is that structure is absolutely the key. And so is consistency. If you think that you're going to get somewhere without structure, without being consistent, you're not. You're just going to get into a world of illusions, right? I think that's an important thing. Many people don't want to admit that they're in a delusion or they're in some type of an illusion. And I think that might be hard for some people because maybe you're seeing something, but that perception is changing what's really there. I think that's an important one, guys, because our perception changes our reality, right? Number 9, attention holds longer without conscious correction. Focus becomes naturally sustained, but this does not happen, guys, overnight. And I said this to you guys before. It doesn't happen overnight. And the reason I say it doesn't happen overnight is because it's about you. It's about where you are in life. And I think that's a very important thing to realize is that it's about where you are in life at this given moment. Not where you're going to be later, not where you were yesterday, but where you are in life at this exact given moment and time. Yeah, that's key. Number 10, energy usage becomes more balanced throughout the day. There are, let's say, less sharp peaks and drops. So that's always good because now you can have that ebb, you can have that flow, not have those jagged edges. Maybe there might be 1 or 2 or a minor one, but it won't be like it was before. And I think when we have interruptions, like we talked about before, we get distracted, but we not only lose focus, our motivation wanes because our confidence goes down. Number 11, guys, task switching loses its disruptive effect. Transitions no longer break momentum when we are in the zone. And getting in the zone is about a state. It's about a feeling that all of us maybe come to be around. It's about that kind of a condition. Okay. I think that's important to know. I think it's important to know that it's truth. It's truth. Truth is the reality. But your truth does not happen overnight. And when you don't get where you want to be overnight, you're like, oh my gosh, it's never going to work. No, it's not never going to work. It's just not going to happen overnight. That's the truth, guys. Not going to happen overnight. When you're in the zone, you're not disruptive, okay? Things can come to try to take you off your path, but when you're centered and when you're grounded, it's like it quickly fades and you go right back to what you're doing, almost as if it was a blip. But that happens when we're grounded and when we are centered in ourselves. Number 12, guys, execution feels continuous rather than segmented. Segmentation is about different parts, right? But it's about who you are. And who you are is something that I think most people don't realize. They don't realize that you can be who you want to be if you actually do the right things. Okay. When you do the right things, you become part of an ecosystem that literally changes every single time. And you grow and you become better with who you are right now. I think that's a whirlwind. Sometimes when we have the floor taken beneath us, like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? How am I going to react? Instead of that, think about, what can I learn from this experience? What can I do better next time? What can I avoid? What can I do to get back on the track that I once was on? And I think anytime somebody gets interrupted or disrupted from something, you're like, oh my gosh, what the heck am I going to do? Right? What the heck am I going to do? That's important, guys. That is very, very important. Important to know, important to understand. Right? That's the key here. Number 12, guys, execution feels continuous rather than segmented. Because, as I said before, when something is segmented, it's like disjointed. It's like it starts, it stops, it starts, it stops. And there's not a continuous connection. If you ever think of, let's say, example I can give you is a gutter, okay? So gutters, for a long time, they would have to seam them together, the soffits. Well, now they have something that they do seamless gutters. And seamless is a lot better for the leaves and for the water. So this way, there's nothing to get stuck from any kind of abrasions or any bumps or any levels. So that's important. So execution feels continuous rather than segmented, and your workflow flows as a connected process, not as a disjointed set of tasks. So when we realize that what's in our life is connected to us and the world around us, it's like an epiphany happens inside of us. We get the insight to go where we want to be. We get that thought of inspiration that says, you know what? We need to do this instead. That's what we need to do. But if you're going to look for the answers all at once, they are not going to come all at once. Let's just be pretty honest about that. When you can understand that they won't come all at once, you'll be like, all right, I get it now. I get how this works. Number 13, guys, mental clarity remains stable under varied conditions. External pressure has less impact now. But you see, it's like, think of it like this. If you have a pump, right? Swimming pool is the best example. And sometimes if the water, let's say the pool, for example, is at a different level. So if the pool is higher than the pump, the water is going to flow down from gravity. If the pool is lower and the pump is higher, well, then the water is not going to flow up to the pump so easily. So you've got to make sure the pump is primed, or there's going to be no water in the basket. If there's no water in the basket, it's going to be like, it's not going to, and eventually you could burn the pump out. So that's what we call priming the pump. And even when there is gravity feed, you still might need to prime the pump because there isn't any suction there. The water does that. So priming a pump in the literal sense is very similar to us priming our own pump, to us becoming grounded, to us becoming aware, here we are, aware of our current situation. And when we are grounded, guys, life seems to have a natural flow that many people didn't even know existed. Number 14, productivity becomes less dependent on motivation cycles. Okay. Always says, oh, you got to get motivated, John. So motivation only lasts for a certain period of time. If you lose that, then it's like, well, what do I do now? Motivation is not what keeps you going. The discipline is what keeps you going. Motivation can get the pump primed, but it won't keep you going, won't keep the engines running. It might get it started, but it won't keep it going. Number 15, focus no longer competes with distractions internally. So when we have distractions outside, that's one thing. But when there's distractions inside our body, it's a lot harder to dismiss them because they're inside us and they're part of us. Competing thoughts weaken the influence. And when the influence gets weakened, we're like, oh, where's my confidence? My belief just kind of tanks. A lot of people do that because they see other people around them doing that. So what do? They copy them. Number 16, work becomes easier to structure mentally. Organization happens as part of thinking. Part of thinking. Attention no longer fragments easily under loads. Cognitive scattering is now reduced. When we decrease the amount of load on our brain can function more efficiently. It can use less energy. Our body does use energy, okay? And so when we learn how to do that, we become less stressed. We become more in line with synchronicities, which don't just happen for any reason. They're linked to us and what we're creating. Cognitive scattering becomes reduced and may eventually become eliminated because now we are grounded. Now we are paying attention to something. The thoughts are not diverting to something else, right? How many times have you taken a test, maybe when you're younger, or maybe still in school like myself, and you take the test, and you're wondering what Jimmy or Bobby are doing, or you're wondering what you're going to be doing after the test, like you're going to go over somebody's house, or you're going to go play, or something like that. I remember that, and then it's like, we have to get through the test first. And once the test is over, then we can go play. But the test has to come first. But sometimes during the test, it's like your mind's scared. Okay, I got to get my mind back on track. And when I get it back on track, I keep it there. I can always go play, but this test is today. This test isn't coming again. I need to do well in this class. This is my midterm. This is my final. I need to focus. Number 18, guys, performance becomes predictable regardless of the environment. When we're able to know our performance can be at a certain level, that's giving ourselves control. That's allowing us to manage the inputs, to control the outputs, right? If you're doing something and you're working with a machine and you're putting too much in, let's say you're putting in papers to get folded. If you put too many in, what's going to happen? The machine's going to get stuck. It's going to jam. Same thing happens with a shredder, right? You put too many in, it gets stuck. Then you have to either take it apart, or you have to, on the better ones, you push the reverse button and it goes and reverses out. Number 19, guys. Thinking and action become closely aligned. They actually converge together. And delay between the thought and the execution suddenly reduces. And you don't know why, but all you know is you feel better. You feel more in control. You feel less stressed. You feel more empowered. Number 20, guys. Mental resistance during tasks becomes minimal. Friction is reduced significantly. And when friction is reduced significantly, we're going with the ebbs and the flows. We're using less energy. Yeah. Number 21. Attention self corrects when drift begins. Recovery becomes automatic, guys. It becomes automatic. It's an inborn behavior that we learn in our life. We're not born with it. When I say inborn, it's the fact that our body has learned how to process this autonomously. So we learn a lot of different patterns in life, and we learn how to respond to certain patterns based on our previous experience and our new experiences. So that, one, we stay safe, and two, we're able to manage the situation, and three, we're able to master it or become more efficient in it. Number 22, guys, workflow transitions happen without disruption. When you go from one stage of production line to another, there's always going to be some type of a debacle or a delay. But what if you could move from one to the other and the delay would be very minor or non existent? That'd be amazing. And you can do it if you become in alignment. So, alignment with what? Alignment with your core values. So, it means you got to have good core values, the core values align, and then you could become grounded. Momentum, guys, is preserved naturally. It happens because of your state, because of your mind, because of your organization. It's like, oh, I get this now. It makes sense. And then you're able to move forward from there. Number 23, guys, execution becomes less dependent on conscious effort. Actions feel more automatic. And when they're automatic, does that mean that they're right? Not always. So we have to check ourselves and make sure the actions are really autonomously helping us. People think just because things are happening without thought, it means they're right. It doesn't. So we have to be accountable and know that what we're doing is actually benefiting our ROI, benefiting our greater good or the greater good of all concerned as well. Number 24, guys, cognitive load decreases during sustained work periods. When we understand something and we're in a work period and we know what to do, our stress levels go down. Our efficiency levels go up. Our energy burn goes down. Our relatability goes up. Our confidence level goes up. The mental strain is reduced. And I think when we learn how to reduce mental strain, that's almost a home run, if it isn't a home run. Number 25, guys, output reflects internal system stability rather than an emotional state, which a lot of people rely on as an emotional state. But we have to look at the output and notice that the results can become consistent. Not that they may be, they will become consistent if you're aligned with your core values. And your core values incorporate the fact that they're only being done for the greater good of all concerned. Number 26, guys. Focus no longer requires intentional maintenance. It becomes part of our baseline behavior. Think of it like a computer. It becomes part of our post, power on self-test. It becomes part of our environment. And when that happens, it's like, hey, you know what? This isn't so bad. This was easy. I don't want to say the words easy to you, but I want to say that it'll be easier. Easier. Number 27, guys. Task completion becomes more predictable and reliable. When that happens, stress goes down. When that happens, ROI goes up. When that happens, leadership potential starts to foster. And work, ladies and gentlemen, finishes with less variations. In other words, work finishes with consistency. Not unpredictability. Number 28, guys, performance remains steady under changing conditions. External variables have reduced impact. So when we have different inputs or different configurations, we can still use those and manage successful output. That's key, guys. It's very, very key to understand that. Number 29, guys, attention, execution, and workflow begin operating as one coherent system. When we have learned skills when we were younger, and we still do this today, you might say, gee, how does times tables help us? How does color help us? They're all part of our baseline system that allows us to grow, that allows us to learn. This is why we start with basic education, because we have to prime our pump, right, with things we can link to easily. And as we get older, There's more stuff that we can latch onto. Therefore, we become more knowledgeable because we can attach more complicated things to things we already know. Separation between them, guys, virtually disappears. And some people think it's magic, but it's not. It's true synergy. Number 30, guys, full integration is achieved when focus becomes your identity, not an effort. Identity happens when you're in alignment with your core values. That blows my mind. So the key is not working harder, not doing more. It's working smarter, but smarter means making the choices that flow with your core values. Not just today, not just tomorrow, but every single day of your life. At this point, guys, performance stabilizes at its natural peak. Natural peak. In closing, guys, I want to say that, so the final insight is very simple. Okay. You are not trying to control focus anymore. Let me say that again. You are not trying to control focus anymore. No more. You are, however, now operating as someone whose systems already includes it as part of its baseline, as part of its initial software load. That is where performance stops fluctuating. That, ladies and gentlemen, is where execution becomes a natural flow, like nature. That, ladies and gentlemen, is where stability becomes permanent. And when we align with those things and we start to see, wow, this is happening, you'll feel like you're putting no effort in because everything is just flowing with the universe, and that's aligned with you. Ladies and gentlemen, I am John C. Morley, serial entrepreneur. This has been Inspirations for Your Life. I thank you so much for being here and choosing to be part of this great show and all my great content at BelieveMeAchieve.com. And we'll catch you real soon. Have a great night, everyone.